Both French presidential candidates held drastically different positions on hot-button issues like membership in the European Union, immigration, and trade. This presidential election promised to shape France's future. After weeks of protest and unrest, France has a new president-elect. Centrist candidate Emmanuel Macron defeated far-right candidate Marine Le Pen by a wide margin to become the country's youngest president at age 39.
I wish this evening to greet Madame Le Pen. I know the divisions of our country that have led some to extreme votes. I respect them. I know the anger, the anguish, the doubts that many of you have expressed.
Macron is a strong supporter of the European Union, globalization, and trade. He now waits for legislative elections where the success of his new party in Marseille will determine his political power.
Before those results came down in France, Republican Senator Roy Blunt sat down with Meet the Press. He discussed tomorrow's hearing on Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. Blunt says Russian meddling isn't new, and it's been going on all over the globe for more than a decade. He says it's a way for the country, which, quote, resents its diminished role in the world, to assert its power.
Well, I think there's no question there was Russian interference in our elections, just like we're seeing now in France and seeing in Germany. In fact, in Europe, we've seen for well over a decade the Russians trying to interfere. So we need to look at that. That's one issue. We need to look at that in a way that better prepares us for 2018 and 2020.
That hearing will start tomorrow. He was an inspiration to many, and now those he inspired are mourning his sudden death. U.S. Olympic bobsledder Stephen Holcomb was found dead at the U.S. Training Center in Lake Placid, New York yesterday. After beating a disease that nearly took his eyesight, Holcomb went on to win 3 Olympic medals. He was part of the 2010 team that ended a 62-year gold medal drought for the United States. He was expected to compete in the 2018 Winter Games in South Korea. The cause of his death is not yet known. Holcomb was just 37.
Reports of another U.S. citizen being detained in North Korea came out of Pyongyang today. North Korea's state-run media says Kim Hak-sung, a university worker in Pyongyang, was detained over hostile acts against the country. That's about as specific as the regime has been about why he was detained. This past Wednesday, the country announced the detention of an accounting instructor from the same university. North Korea now has 4 Americans in its custody. The U.S. Embassy in Seoul is looking into the latest arrest. Tens of thousands of women staged a protest in the streets of Venezuela's capital yesterday. They're just one of many groups challenging the country's socialist government and calling for peace. Marchers demanded elections to replace Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, who's accused of ruining their economy. This marks the 5th week of protests that have left at least 37 people dead. The White House is looking to put pressure on Maduro with economic sanctions. A high school in Maine is mourning the loss of one of its graduates today, Navy SEAL Kyle Milliken. The Pentagon says he was killed during an operation against the Islamist militant group Al-Shabaab in Somalia. Milliken is the first American to die in combat there since 1993. His family says he was a devoted father and son, a true professional, and a wonderful husband.
More than 3 years after being kidnapped by Boko Haram in northern Nigeria, 82 girls are back home today in the capital city of Abuja. Boko Haram is a brutal Islamic extremist group operating in parts of Africa. Nigeria says it exchanged Boko Haram prisoners for their release. The Nigerian president's chief of staff was there to welcome those girls home.
Welcome our girls, welcome our sisters. We're happy to have you back. We're very glad that you are back. And every Nigerian today must be forgetting every other hardship is suffering because it is a very joyous moment.
Nigeria's president did not say how many prisoners have been exchanged. However, the Associated Press says 5 Boko Haram leaders were released in the deal. At least 4 people are dead and several others hurt after a city bus and car collided in Chicago this morning. Neighbors say they woke up to a loud boom, and when they ran outside, they saw a car crumpled next to a bus. Police say all 4 people in the car died. The bus driver and passengers on board were hurt. Everybody, though, is expected to be okay.
A survey from gas monitoring site Lundberg says the price of a gallon of gas is down by more than a nickel. That puts the national average just over $2.40. Here in the metro, it's about $2.15 a gallon, but the cheaper fill-up could be short-lived. Prices typically go up in the spring and summer because of higher demand. A sonic boom surprised some people in Central Florida today. It turns out what they heard was a secret Air Force mini space shuttle that landed in Cape Canaveral. It looks like a smaller version of a NASA space shuttle. The Air Force says the unmanned spacecraft, called the X-37B, was returning from a 718-day mission orbiting Earth. This was the fourth mission for X-37B. The Air Force has plans for another later this year. Pinnacle Foods is recalling some of its Aunt Jemima frozen pancakes, waffles, and French toast. They could be contaminated with listeria. Pinnacle says tests found the presence of listeria in the plant where they are made. The recall only applies to products with a best buy date on them, not dry mixes or syrup.
Scientists and meteorologists can have a hard time spotting tornadoes as they're touching down.
But new technology could help them spot tornadoes faster and save lives. We take a look at that new technology next on 9 News at 5.
Storms that sent tornadoes spinning hit the Midwest and South, causing widespread destruction in recent weeks. Now researchers at the University of Oklahoma might be able to use technology to track tornadoes by the debris they pick up. This would be with radar simulation, and they hope to show meteorologists, help meteorologists find those twisters once they hit the ground.
We never really know if a tornado is on the ground. That's why we have storm trackers out there. But now, if we can see the debris on radar, that's going to let us know that there's actually a tornado on the ground.
The project still has a ways to go. The University of Oklahoma Research Lab has applied for another grant so that they can continue these studies. Flooding in the Canadian province of Quebec is forcing people from their homes in more than 130 communities. More Canadian troops are being deployed to help. 1,900 homes and roads are covered by rising water levels. Some people were upset by mandatory evacuations, and that frustrated a mayor there.
People had to be evacuated, and we put them in boats, and they're crying like babies. I'm sorry, they're at a point where now they are not in a position to decide anymore their own future.
The city of Montreal is under a state of emergency, as are neighboring cities and towns.
A frightening video, especially if you're a parent. A school bus aide in Illinois appears to hit a 6-year-old child with autism. The child's parents are demanding answers from the school. The superintendent says the aide is not an employee of the school, but works for the bus as a contractor. Police are still reviewing the video. A spokeswoman from the school district declined to comment.
A 62-year-old man risked his life last month trying to get his cell phone back from a thief in California. The sheriff's office just released that video. This all happened at a gas station in Madera County. The man here saw a woman rifling through his car, his cell phone in her hand, so he ran after her. She jumped in the pickup truck and drove away. He wasn't going to let her go that easy. You can see he's clinging to the back of that truck. Eventually, physics take over, and he was propelled off the car, skidding through the lot. No arrests in this case. Yet deputies say that they definitely don't recommend doing this just for a phone. I'm sorry, Ryan, I can't get over that video of the or the aide with that
on the bus.
That poor girl. I mean,
it's just terrible. Yeah, I think someone's going to be in big trouble, huh?
So as a new parent, that's just
tough to
I'm sorry
watch.
if I look stunned reading that other story, but I couldn't help it.
It's tough to watch, no doubt. Yeah, someone's going to be busted, no doubt.
All right, our Colorado Republicans' no vote on the new health care bill got you talking this week.
We also heard a lot about people who pass their pet off as a service dog to go into places where other dogs aren't allowed, and a silver fox made you look. Kim Christensen has our 9 Listens report.
This morning, however, President Donald Trump is claiming legislative victory after passing a revised American Health Care Act.
A victory for House Republicans and the president this week. They voted to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act. Democrats voted against the bill, along with 20 Republicans, including Colorado Congressman Mike Kaufman. He has doubts those with pre-existing conditions will get coverage. Some comments: "Thanks for doing the right thing, Mike Kaufman. Your constituents actually do want most of the provisions of the ACA, so I'm glad you realize and you voted against the bill." Others reacted like this to his interview on Next. "Was appalled to see you celebrating Kaufman's no vote this evening. Don't be naive, Kyle. That was political gaming and nothing more. Kaufman gets to look like a good guy who cares, only because they didn't need his vote. Had they needed it, you can bet your show he would have been a yes vote. You're smarter than this." And some feel it was just too much too soon, a sentiment similar to the criticism of the original Affordable Care Act, which passed in 2010. Health care may need to be reformed, but what I don't get is why the rush? How many times is the outcome good when you rush a job? Maybe, sometimes, if you're lucky, more often than not, a rush job is a botched job.
Anybody can get paperwork, too.
It's a free-for-all.
It's just so selfish. It's like, why would you do that?
The vests are easy to find online, and it's fairly easy to spot a faker, a service dog that is not trained. It's becoming a problem nationwide. 19 states, including Colorado, have made it a crime to pretend a dog is a service dog. Comments? Fake service dogs make it harder for those with professionally trained service dogs to be accepted. A trained service dog usually undergoes 2 years of training, and when fully trained, will know over 200 commands. Also, untrained service dogs are coming to hospitals also. Nurses who are already so busy now have to deal with barking, growling, and taking animals out.
A Colorado Parks and Wildlife game camera captured this picture. It's a silver fox at Staunton State Park.
Finally, lots of you enjoyed the photo and the fun we had with silver foxes. One was captured by a park camera at Staunton State Park. It's a form of the red fox, and some of you shared your fox photos as well. I've been watching a fox family with 4 pups, and 1 is silver. So cute. Thanks for your comments, and remember, 9 listens.
If there's something out there that gets your attention this week, let us know.
Yeah, we always like to hear from you. Send your comments. KUSA at 9news.com. You can also hit us up on Facebook. We'll be right back. Rod has sports coming up.
Exciting afternoon.
It certainly was in the weather department. Kind of a taste of what's to come. Many more storms heading our way this week. But you know what, guys? The Loveland ski area winding down on their season. Look at that. That is the live view with maybe a little bit of snowfall coming in this week. It was such a great season, especially December, January. We got so much snow up there. Nice to see. Now, as we look ahead as to what's to come, we are going to be looking at possibly a few more thunder showers. I really think for tonight, everything is done. But it looks like as we head toward the week, it will just keep coming our way. I was going to show you the 9-day.
Technology's not working for you, huh?
All right, clicker.
That's what she has Twitter for. Thanks for watching. We're back at 9 and 10.
Not working.
Throw it again.